Hi everyone, welcome back to the valley. As you can see, it's winter. Snow is all around us. This is the viewpoint you get every winter, so it gives you an idea that when it is white, you know it's winter. This winter season is among us. You can also see we put on our warm clothes, and so this stops us from freezing and dying from the frost. If you didn't have any warm clothes, you'd have to wander around with one of those torches pretty much the whole time. In either case, if you don't have any of those, then you'd see in the bottom left-hand corner a frost symbol, and again your health meter would start to dissipate before you die. Now, what we're going to do first of all is just show you what's been happening whilst the season kind of passed from autumn into winter. I started and completed the build of the hunting lodge, so we now have a hunting lodge ready to go. I'm a bit slow walking because I'm carrying a few items ready for our next build. What I will also just quickly go through with you as well is that without a resource shed, which is going to be my next build in just a moment, it is a little bit more difficult to balance out what the villagers themselves want. So, for example, we already know in the management menu that the villager we have wants 30 food, 30 water and 45 wood. Now you may recall I mentioned before that this wood is higher than the normal season due to the fact that it is a lot colder. The point of this kind of bringing this to your attention is that normally anything that is required, food and water from the food storage and wood from the general storage, if you don't have those buildings built, you then have to put the items into their house themselves. So for example, let's just go into Eric's house. This is the total amount of chest he can hold in his house, and you can see in here we have put firewood, which will keep him going for a short period of time. But I think it's looking at the bottom here, it's 100 durability per piece of firewood. They're on 30 a day, so that's probably about 3 or 4 days worth for each item that we have. But without that, then you get error symbols in the top left-hand corner just to say, well, okay, you've got no food and you've got no water, etc. So to kind of get around that, you want to build your resource shed as soon as possible. And this is going to be the next thing we're going to build, which is why I'm carrying a bit of stuff to slow down. Now, we're building it as close to the village because even when we decide to move locations, the resource shed itself will stay in this location. And the reason that is that if you need to go from one town to another, rather than carrying a whole load of stuff to sell, you can leave it in your resource shed and then pick it up and then just literally transport it to town for the purpose of selling. And it makes it life a lot easier. And as time goes on, my tip to anybody is to build a resource shed next to the furthest away villages. So again, if we look at the map, for example, I would be definitely looking to put a resource shed somewhere around Hornica and probably somewhere between Lesnica and Jezerica. As those that have seen my previous tour video, I'm currently located on my other save game around this area here. So I wouldn't need to put a resource shed in Danica because I'm going to be putting a couple of them here when I move there. This is the viewpoint of where we're going to be going in due course. Gostovia is a temporary kind of starting point, but again, leaving the resource shed here means that we can go to both Gostovia and Borowo if we need to sell items, and we don't need to carry them this length of distance. You can see on this occasion as well, when we're looking to build, that it's actually slightly different in the base. And the reason because of that is that the ground is slightly uneven. Now, even though it's slightly uneven, it is still allowing us to build a kind of building of some sort. In this case, the resource storage. If it's too uneven, it'll tell you that it's too uneven. You won't be able to. So, like for example, on the hills in the distance, if you try to build on the hill, it's not going to happen because simply it's just too uneven to do. So on this occasion we don't need stone, simply because we are building off the ground and the base itself is a foundation made of wood. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to start kind of over here. It does make it a little bit more difficult to get in and out, but never mind. So we'll just do that. Okay, so here we are. We have now one completed resource shed. We'll just go over to the chest. And you can see it has 1,000 kilograms of capacity. Now that this has been built, any wood, so that's logs, firewood, sticks and planks that are collected by the villager in the woodshed will now appear in here and not in the woodshed where it was before. We'll still need to move the items over that are in the woodshed, and I'll do that later on, but for now we can see everything will start to appear in here. Now, what we also want to do is, while we're here, is to get a villager in the hunting lodge. Now, I went to town yesterday and the levels of the person in town was quite low. However, we can't be picky early on when we're close by, so it might be just a simple thing for us to do is to get whoever is in here. And remember, doing the inspector mode will kind of give us an idea of what they like. And we've got a gentleman already, so we need a lady in there now. So we've got two gentlemen there, so that's not going to work. So let's try and go over to Borrowo and see if we can get someone into the hunting lodge. So now heading over to Borrowo to see if we can get someone into the hunting lodge. Now, as you can see, using the water, even with clothing, makes you cold. That symbol's now appeared. So although we're going across now, I think on the way back we'll use the bridge, because it does start to eat into the red bar. As you can see, it's starting to dissipate. And now it's stopped now, so we're outside to the water. We've had a wash at the same time, which is good. So let's head on up to the fireside camp and see if we can get a lady villager in, because they need to go into the house that's already been built. Right, here we go. So there's one such a lady sat by the fire, and she's only got a level 1 hunting. However, as I've mentioned, at the moment we cannot be picky on what we need to get, so let's just select her for now. You can always move her into a different job as time goes on. So again, same with the management. Put her into the house with Eric. And again, do the same for the work. So the hunting lodge. Select the person involved. Now in the hunting lodge there should be some stone knives which I created beforehand, so that'll keep them going for the time being. And let's select the assignments. So in the hunting lodge we've selected our worker, and we've now also selected, well, I've selected the intensity working for this person. Question comes out is, should they work at 100%? Yes, for the purpose of this game there's no reason why not. The only potential reason is if you're running out of room in the resource sheds, whether that's the food resource shed, which is where the meat will go, or the general resource shed where the leather and fur will go. If you're literally running out of room and what you're collecting is already a surplus, then you can dial it back on the percentages. But to begin with, definitely 100% and whatever you need. Leather I've done because this will help with the bags for your farms. And fur I've done for the purpose of clothing, such as for shoes, for boots, other items that contain fur that you can sell at a reasonably good price. You'll also see now that the demands have gone up. So the food is now 60 per day, the water is 60 per day, and the wood is 90 per day. Now one of the other things as well I'm going to show you in this screen, the management screen, is your items. So let's just look at wood. You have 4 options here that can be used for firewood. This is what it's saying. So literally we're saying, okay, so we've got X amount of firewood, X amount of sticks, X amount of logs, and X amount of planks. Now they're all saying 0 at the moment because they're actually in the chest in the woodshed rather than the resource shed, which is not a problem because it doesn't really matter at the moment, but we will need to move them across because that's where the villagers will be taking their resources from, the resource shed, not the chest now in the woodshed. That's now become null and void. You can tick or untick the items that you wish to use for firewood. So, for example, if you didn't want planks being used for firewood, then you untick it and change it to a cross. And that's what I'm going to do, because I need my planks for housing later on and also for other buildings. So it just leaves firewood, stick and log, and it's in order of priority as well. So firewood will always be the first thing that's taken, sticks are second, and logs are third. Now you need logs to make firewood anyway, so it doesn't matter on that basis. Same sort of goes with the food. Now I would leave all these on. These are in order of priority. So for example, if you started making the pottage, which is 2 cabbages and 2 pieces of meat with a bowl, and then you left the rest of the cabbages where they are, the villagers will eat the pottage first before they eat the normal cabbages. As far as I'm concerned, you're providing food. It's not a case that you're providing for a gourmet restaurant. Just give them the food that you need. The mood themselves, they all have a mood indicator. So if you go into the screen here, this mood indicator, which is currently sitting at 4% for one and 0 for another, is determined by their demands, first of all, which is food and water and wood, but also demands by what type of food in the sense of variation. So if you're just going to give them meat all the time, they're going to get fed up. But if you give them a mixture, they will enjoy that, which means their mood will go up. Now it's very possible his mood has come down because Malwina's moved in. Now also you can see on here their relevant levels on what they were doing. So you remember the skills across the top there? This is highlighted in green because Eric is classed as a lumberjack in the woodshed, and lumberjack is classed as extraction. Whereas Malwina is level 1 in hunting, so she's classified as a hunter at level 1. She's level 2 in farming, also in production and survival. So we can change her job if we need to in due course. So for example, if when we move to the new location we find someone that's a better level hunter, then we would select that person as a hunter and we would change Malwina over to, say, production, something like the workshop, along those sort of lines. It's getting dark, so let's head on back across the river and we will be back out again in the morning. Hello, morning everybody, and it's a new day in our winter season, and I thought it'd be a bit of a surprise. We are currently located just south of Tutki, and for those that have seen my tour video, this is the location that I decided to settle on in my other game. Now, this is where we're going to be settling from now on. Because it took a few years in my old game to get to this point, I only kind of found it by chance. Now, I'm not saying that everybody should move to this area. It's entirely up to you. There is no right or wrong way of doing this. You can go in different parts of the map. It's whatever you choose. I found this place to be very useful for various reasons. So first of all, it's a natural divide. So I just walk across this bridge. Look to your left. A natural river divide, or lake divide. And what will happen from this game, as it did my other one, is that all my residential housing will go on that side of the river. And on this side of the river, so we're going to the camera map. It'll probably be easier just to get a bit more of a view for you. We'll go up and above, let's have a look and see. And we'll just zoom back a bit. Okay, so as I said just a second ago, all the housing will be on this side of the river. On that side of the river, there will be the work buildings, and on this area here is where all the farming will be, and also animals. It's a lot of trees at the moment, and again, if you've seen the video or the tour, they don't exist anymore. Now this is where the area that when I start cutting trees down, the trunks themselves will also be pulled out of the ground, so they won't be regrowing, and that's because I need this area. But you can see how flat it is. All of this, how flat it is, and it makes building very, very easy to do. Yes, it looks like a forest at the moment, but this will be, in time, will change. You may ask, why am I starting now? Because, as I said before, it took a long time in my previous game to actually find this location. If I'd have seen it sooner, I would have moved here sooner. So what I will be doing in the next few videos is building the new town here and eventually moving the old stuff over. So be building a new hunting lodge, destroying the old one, building a new woodshed, destroying the old one, and the villages that are currently situated outside of Gostovia will also be moved over here. Now, to give you a viewpoint how to move, so if you say you've already settled in a location, maybe Gostovia or that area, and you want to move to this new location, what is my advice for people to do? Easy, one word, slowly. So let me expand on that. You don't want to start building everything too quick and trying to move villages over. So if you don't build a new house, but you do build a new woodshed and you do build a new hunting lodge, people that are currently living in that house may take a bit of a dim view, especially if their mood, so the mood might drop. You probably also will forget something. So, for example, the order of building here is going to be a resource center first, resource storage first. And the reason why I'm doing that first of all is whilst the people in the woodshed, or the person in the woodshed is still collecting logs for me, when you build your resource storage, you have access to other resource storages. So it's the same sort of line as when I said about building a resource storage near to other villages. It's because you can access your total amount of capacity, which is increased by every resource building you build. So at the moment we've got 1,000 kilograms of capacity in the resource storage building outside of Gostovia. The second one will give us 2,000 in total. So it means you've got more scope to put more stuff in. I will be obviously chopping trees down and picking up stones whilst I'm here to help build the new buildings that we need, but at least I'll get that topped up by the villager in the woodshed. Next protocol will be to build a new house, and the reason why I want to build a new house is I'm also going to be building my farm over here, because at the moment I'm responsible for the farm. Now that's fine, but it's a small farm. It's only a 50 plot field, and there's only one of them. What I'm planning to do is something similar on the lines on my other saved game, whereby there will be multiple 8x8 plots. So each 4 plots will be governed by a farm shed. Now this is the only building, the farm shed is the only building that has to be built near its resource. So when you build an extraction shed, for example, for stone and clay, you don't need to plant it near a clay pit, because the villager you allocate will go and collect that clay regardless. And the amount of time that villager is going to collect that clay is not it doesn't affect the game. So they work about 6, 7 hours, 8 hours a day in daylight. So they'll collect the same amount of clay, whether they're collecting it from a clay pit that's 10 yards from the shed or 2 miles from the shed. It doesn't matter as far as the game is concerned. It hasn't built into the fact that the villager would need travel time to get that. Farm shed is the only one, and it needs to be built near its field, otherwise it doesn't generate the crops, or if it does, it generates a reduced amount of crops. So this is why, and there's a limited also distance, so a farm shed has to be built within 50 meters of the farm field itself, which is why I do it in blocks of 4. So I have a block of 4, and then right smack in the middle of those 4 is where the farm shed will be situated. So let's begin. Let's see where we go from here. And what we will do to begin with is we come out of the camera mode, come back into the game, and we will put the resource shed on this side of the river. Now there's one other thing I want to mention to you as well regarding the building and the demolishing of buildings that you've already built. So in your skills section, there is an element here. Where is it? No, it's not that one. Here we go. It's called Master of Destruction. I haven't selected it yet because I haven't needed it. Whenever you destroy a building, you will get 50% of the resources that was put into that building back. So, for example, if it cost you 34 logs to build the resource shed, which I think it did, then to destroy it, you get 17 back. And then you can use that to rebuild it if you need to at a different location. So it's important that if you do get an extraction skill and you've done the started the lower level, once it is open, it only takes one skill. Once it's open, I would definitely select that because it is worth it when you start to relocate. So again, another reason why I want to build a resource shed here is, again, because of the access across the board of what you've got. Okay, so here we are, our second resource shed. So let's just go inside. Just to kind of add to what we did before, there's all this other space means nothing. It doesn't do anything at all. I mean, you can put logs in there, but it doesn't form part of your capacity. And you cannot access them from other resource locations if you're finding that you're running out of room. So let's go here, and you can see here we've now got 2,000 kilograms of capacity now, and also all the other items that were being collected from the other side, which I put into the resource shed last night before I went to sleep, are now appearing in here. So all the logs that have been collected from, up to yesterday and today. Also any tools, which are in here as well. Okay, so that's one good thing to begin with. Now the next priority for me here is another house. And the reason is that we're going to start putting villages here. We're not going to move the ones that are currently where they are at the moment. These ones are designed to be placed here for the new buildings, such as the farm shed, things like workshop, things like that. You know, other buildings that will come along, kitchen, herbalist huts, all those sort of things will come through. One thing I would, as a tip when it comes to choosing your villagers, is that extraction and farming should primarily be male villagers and production female. And this is just a tip I've picked up on because I've found in the past that if you've got a woodshed and you have a female villager and they're lucky enough to pair off someone and get pregnant, once that baby is born, they're off the work detail for 2 years because they're looking after the child until the child is 2 years old and wandering around on their own. So during that period of time, they're not producing anything. Now, if you have them in the woodshed collecting wood, so logs for firewood, etc., all of a sudden that building isn't working, and all of a sudden you're running out of supplies, and your village's mood is going to go down, and before you know it, you're going to have nothing in the resource shed to keep the villagers because they'll just wander off. So it's always wise to keep an eye on things anyway. So the reason by keeping the extraction, so whether that's the woodshed, the mine, for example, is another option, and the farm fields, is at least they keep ticking over. With regard to the production items, so the kitchen, the barn, herbalist huts, things like that, when the lady's actually looking after the child, you can then step in yourself or find other villagers to kind of put in their place. So on my other save game, I've got something like 70 people living in this location, and the reason they've been building up is as soon as someone gets pregnant, I've been trying to fill in a space, because by filling in a space, I then need to make sure I've got enough food and enough wood to continue doing that. Now, with the housing you have, the smallest house will have 3 beds, which means if they had a child and you didn't move them into the bigger house with 4 beds, they will never have another child. Children, until their age of the teens, they are obviously just population. They don't help towards production, and that's fair enough. That's what it's designed to be. Once they get to a certain age, they can become apprentice, which again doesn't affect your production levels, but it does mean that their skills grow. So we were saying before about when you get a recruit, the maximum level you can get is a level 3. With a child, they start at a 3 across the board, or close to it anyway. And when they get to the age of, I think it's teenage years, so maybe 15 or 16, you can put them as an apprentice, and it builds up their levels in the apprenticeship that you've placed them. So if you've placed them in a farm shed, then farming level will go up. If you place them in the mine, then extraction level will go up, and so on. And when they get to 18, they can then be put into work themselves, but they can still live within the family home. You don't need to move them out of the family home unless you really want to. Obviously, what would happen is that if they're living in the family home, they won't develop any children of their own. So, and also once your own villagers get to a certain age, I think it's over the age of 60, they then run the risk of each season passing away. So once they've passed away, again, their productivity drops off. I mean, a lot of people, and I haven't got that far with the other game yet, but a lot of people have actually retired their older villagers when they get to about 50, 55, and just let them wander around and mark them as retired. I mean, I haven't got that far yet. I don't know what needs to be done to get that far. But then you're then trying to fill in the space left, or the void left, by them not working. So it is kind of down to your own choice on what you do on that basis. But that's quite a way in the distance. In the meantime, it's just kind of planning ahead on what you feel you need. So this is why we're bringing in new villages to kind of accommodate what you want to do. Now, another thing with buildings, if you're going to build a new house for a new villager, then sometimes it may be worth kind of matching them off. So, for example, when we get to the point of being able to build the pigsty, which will develop manure for fertilizer for the farm fields, I would look to put a male villager in the pigsty, because they'll collect all the manure for you, and then have a female villager working in the barn to turn that manure into fertilizer, so that the fertilizer automatically then be used for the farm fields, and that makes it a little easier. So that's one option. Another option is the farm shed itself. You've got a male villager working on the farm shed, you've got a female villager working in the barn, generating, again, the fertilizer. Or, if you've got the pigsty as well, generating animal feed, because it all links in. Another option is the workshop and the well. So, if you've got someone working the well, they need a bucket for the water, so that the water demand is kept up. The buckets are made in the workshop, so you get someone to make the buckets, and also the bowls for the kitchen. So you have a male working in the workshop and a female working on the well. Or in that situation, you could have it either way, because basically a workshop is not extraction, it is production. So it's kind of good to sort of plan how you want to bring new villages in, whether you want to bring in one at a time or whether you want to bring in two at a time, but match them up with the type of buildings and work that you are planning to do. So for me, once this new house is built, the plan will be to build a farm field for a farm shed. So then I would need so I need a male villager for that, and then I need a female villager in the barn. Now the barn moment is currently located in Gostovia, so I would need to rebuild a new barn and then take it from there. But all this while, you're managing out the number of buildings that you can build. So we're currently on 20, because I completed a couple of quests recently. So we've got plenty of scope at the moment, because once you've kind of built the barn in the new location, we can destroy it, the old one, and then go from there. Okay, so I'm going to build a new house. We'll start building it. It's getting darkish. It's probably somewhere around late afternoon, going by the fact that the sun is disappearing. So let's just start collecting some items. And these are the houses that will have stone. Now the reason for stone, there's two reasons for stone. One, it looks better. Two, you can then, in due course, put limestone as your insulation, and that actually makes it that much better for bringing your firewood usage down to what you need. Now, I can hear what you're saying. How do you then change it from what it's currently to what it should be? in regards to going from wattle and straw and sticks to stone. So we're going to build the new house here by the river. Nice little view. Still a simple house to begin with. And we will put the entrance this side and just a little bit away from the river. Now note there are some big stones to the left here. They will just disappear. And they are literally only aesthetic. They don't serve any purpose. They're not rocks for stone gathering. They are purely and simple aesthetic. So when you build a house over something like that, it'll disappear. Okay. Stone base. There you go. And we need some logs, so we're going to run across to the resource shed. So this is the reason why the resource shed is close by. Because I can just literally go in here, pick out 8 logs, and head on back. Although running is not a good idea at the moment because I'm fully encumbered. So I'm just going to drop them. And then they should roll down over the hill because it is a slight incline. I'll pick some up and then do the same again, but I'll probably just drop half, otherwise I'll be here all evening. Now I can hear you asking as well, probably, because it's getting dark, shouldn't I be heading back to Gostovia to sleep? Because, and I'm the only one that can do this, because the game is about this individual, they can sleep pretty much, as long as it's their own house, they can sleep outside at any location as well. So here we go here. So basically, you can see at the moment it says a wattle wall with a window. It also says edit. So if you click on either edit, we'll keep a window in this one. So you've got a choice of wall on its own, wall window, and a wall with a door. But you can only ever have one door, and the door's already been allocated. So let's go wall window. And then you have the option, you have a wattle wall, which is the sticks we were talking about, a wooden wall, which is probably like with planks and logs, and a stone wall, which is what we want. So we click on that, and then you can then make a stone wall. So what I tend to do when I'm building is I go all the way around first before I start doing it, just in case I miss one. So again, we do the door, so stone wall with the door. These ones I'll just leave as walls, so click wall, click stone wall, walls, click wall, click stone wall. On the top, I'm going to change that one to a stone wall as well. Go in the front, and again we'll leave the window in its current location but make it stone. Another wall. And then again another 2 walls made out of stone. At the bottom and one at the top. Now you then ask me, what about the roof? Because currently the roof is thatch. So again, from a rebuild point of view, or repairing point of view, if you've got a thatch roof, it will need repairing more often. Whereas if you change it, so again, same format, you edit it, to a wooden tile roof, or a wooden roof. Actually, a wooden roof is made from logs. Planks I haven't got yet because I haven't got the workshop near me, so I'll just do the wooden roof itself. You need to do that with all 4 to change that to a wooden roof. And we'll do the same on this side. Now remember, what you can do is kind of destroy part of this if you wanted to change it. You need to do it when it's empty though. So if you've allocated villages in this house and you then want to change the wall or you want to change the roof or part of the roof, you then need to, well, the harshest point is evict them, but by doing that you're going to decrease the mood. If you actually put them into an empty house, so you move them, you can then work on the old one. So I always, if I'm going to move somebody, I always put them in somewhere first of all before I need to move them. Now, as you can see, it's getting very, very dark. And to answer the other question I started to talk about, I can sleep here. So I'm going to build myself a fire. and I'm gonna light the fire. I'm gonna have something to eat first of all as well, because I need something to eat. So I'm gonna craft some meat. I'm carrying some meat with me, but I'll probably craft a couple more. Let's craft the whole lot. I won't eat the whole lot, but I'll just craft them all. And that's done. And then I'll have them in a moment. But in the meantime, I'm going to sleep until the morning. Sleep the next day. And there you go. You wake up fresh the next day. Now this, I believe, is the last day of winter. Looking at this. It is. So we're going to spend the remainder of the day here, doing what we can while we're here. Just check the management tab as well. We've got plenty of food, we've got plenty of water, we've got plenty of wood, so the villagers back in Gostovia have no issues as far as that's concerned. And as far as I'm aware, they should have plenty of stone axes. So you need stone axe for the woodshed, and a knife for the hunter. Yeah, we've got plenty here. So we've got plenty to work with at the moment, so they shouldn't have any issues while I'm over here. And this is what we'll do, and when we come to spring, we'll kind of do a lot of work over in this location rather than the old location. So let's finish off the house. Now I'm going to do that off screen again because there's a fair bit of collecting for me to do. I need stone. I need a lot of stone. Stone isn't being collected at the moment because I haven't got an extraction shed, so I need to collect that myself. And then we'll get that finished, and then I'll be back. Okay, so one house built, ready for our new tenants. As you can see, it's stone all the way around. Now, I went for a wooden roof rather than a wood tile roof, thinking it just needed logs, but it did need planks anyway. So what I've done as well is built a woodshed. Now that means that will help us with the planks when we cut down trees for new housing. So it took a little while longer than I had hoped to get it done, but at least we now are in a position that we've got someone, or a place for someone to stay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go across the river, and we're going to build our first set of fields for farming, and just to give ourselves a head start for spring. Now, I know for a fact that I don't have enough fertilizer to fertilize all the fields when they're being built. But to begin with, we can just make the fields up, and then we'll go from there. Now, you may recall they are built via the compass directions, so I'm looking directly south with the view of getting them in place. So again, you go to buildings, farming, field, and we want to go as much as we said, about 8 by 8 was the fields that I had. Okay. Right, so we're going to look to put the rest of the fields in place, and then I'll kind of somehow put the farm shed in the middle. I'm not going to grub the fields up because when we get the farmer in, they'll do that anyway, as long as I've given them enough hose to do that. So all I'm going to do for now is literally just put the fields in place. Trying to get them in a line. That's it. That's good. Three more across. There we go. They're nicely pegged out at the moment. I'm going to pick up some stones because once you put a field in place, it clears everything that's in there. Now, stones are very useful to have, so I'm just going to pick them up for now. I don't want to lose them when I put the next field in place, which if I look at the line, will be up the side there. I'm also going to put the farm shed in the middle as well. So I'll do that now. So this is the one we'll put the farm shed in. And this is... no, not that one. Should be under farming. There we go, from the farm shed. And what I'll do is I'll rotate it so it goes to the front. So basically what will happen is there'll be a pathway up between the two. There you go. We will need some more logs in a moment, which I'll get. But other than that, in the meantime, I can then put the other two fields in. It should look fairly straight. I know, obviously, in medieval times, one of the things was not direction and symmetry. You plant them wherever you could, I would imagine. That's 3 in place, and we've just got 1 more to put in place. And again, there's some more stones here, so we'll collect them as well. Like that. And we'll just try and tie up the line so they're in line with each other. So we might be slightly out. Let's just see where we are. Now remember, with farming, or with fields rather. Now again, with fields, you do pay tax on the number of fields you have and the size of the fields. And I feel at the moment I'm in a position where I can do that without any qualms at all. So you can see what I mean by it being so flat around this area. Now what I will say, in the distance, there's a nice deer here, but right in the forest, in my last game, there are some wolves. So the closer you get to the edge of that forest, there are wolves in there. And we now have 1 farm shed built. Now I'm just going to put my flash torch on, so we can see where we are. Look in the chest. There's nothing in there. There isn't. That's good. Okay, so we're going to go to the management tab, because there is a slight difference between the farm shed and most of the other buildings. You may recall that in the hunting lodge, in the extraction buildings, there was a kind of assignment screen. With the farm shed, you don't get an assignment screen. Okay. You still need the items that are listed on there. So we need the hoe, which is what we're going to get in next season, some bags, which is what the leather would come in handy with, and some sickle or scythes, which again I'll make in the smithy back at Gostovia. But there is no assignments, and the reason behind that is that your assignments are set by your field. So when we come to planting the fields, I will show you in the next video how you assign your fields. In the meantime, let's head on back over and get ourselves to sleep. Relight the fire to keep warm, although I don't think it makes a difference with that, and then we sleep. Sleep next season. Now quite often at the end of the season you will get these sort of screens that will appear, and the decisions you make can have a difference on how the next season pans out. So in this situation it says a travelling merchant is visiting your settlement, presents you his wares and tells story about faraway lands he saw. For a proper price he can teach you a few tricks about haggling. Now there are 3 responses here. 1, we give him 200 coins because we are on the right, we have got a level of 0 to 9 for diplomacy. 2, decline politely, so therefore there's no restrictions on what we're paying out, it's not paying anything out. Or 3, that you show them that you know more, but to do that you need to have level 10 diplomacy, which is quite a way down the line. I'll be interested to see what he has to say, so we'll choose that one. So we learned a few things about the way to talk your way into someone's grace, and you gained some diplomatic skill. So although it cost me 200 coins, it actually gained me 500 skill experience points in diplomacy, which can be the difference of getting 1 or 2 more skills in that sector. one other thing as well, I thought I'd save this to the new season. We're back home. Now the trick of the trade in this is that at the end of every season, it doesn't matter where you are, you will wake up in your home abode. So this is why we were able to stay over in that other location. Always helps about taxes, which I'll come to in a moment. We were able to go to that new location, do all the work we needed to do, and stay there until the season's end without having to come back. Because automatically, when your levels refresh, so your health levels now refresh, you revert back to your home location, which is why we're back home where we are in well, just outside of Gostovia on the first day of a very wet spring by the look of it. So we'll call it a day there, and we'll head into tax territory next time, so we'll pay our taxes, which is now, and then we will be heading back to our new location to do some more buildings, find some villages to put in place, and hopefully start to automate a bit more down there. So anyway, thanks for watching. If you like what you saw, click like and also click the subscribe button. Other than that, I'll see you on the next video.